it goes right, it's a slice. If it goes left, it's a hook. If it goes straight, it's a miracle. This is Out of Bounds. If it's happening in the world of golf, we're talking about it. Coverage, debate, discussion, pro golf and local golf. Let's do it. This is Out of Bounds. And here are your hosts, Nate Sharman and Josh Durso.
Welcome back to the Out of Bounds podcast. The Wells Fargo is behind us. We have a champion in Wyndham Clark. But first, before we get to it, I'm Nate Sharman, next to Josh Durso here on the Out of Bounds podcast. Josh, 29-year-old Wyndham Clark, gets his first PGA Tour victory at Quail Hollow in Charlotte, North Carolina at the Wells Fargo Championship.
Yeah, holds off Xander Schauffele, who looked really good on the front, but ultimately that lead was lost on the back nine. Wyndham Clark put on an absolute clinic between holes 8 and 15. He played him about 5 under par. Yep. He jumps into 5th in the FedEx Cup standings, takes home $3.6 million. I was doing a little background. It looked like he's won like $4.5 or $4.7 million career. So we've got another winner who basically takes home their entire career earnings in one single event, which I think is awesome, especially for a guy like Wyndham. Obviously, we're going to talk more about him, but great story. Lost his mother 10 years ago. It was a clear driving force for him this weekend. He talked a lot about improving his head game, his mental toughness over the last several months, and obviously it all came together today with a win. Yeah,
what a time for Wyndham Clark to get his first victory on tour. He's been on tour about 5 years now, 29 years old, like we said, and just a great time to do it, right? You know, they've added so much money into these events, these elevated events, right? Takes home $3.6 million, earns 500 FedEx Cup points, like you said, vaults him up in the number 5 for the season there, which means so much because if you come in that top 10 at the end of the year, the Comcast business top 10, you win not only a money prize, but you get more status for the following year too. So it's just even bigger proportions to win this year on the tour, never mind last year. So just what a time for Wyndham Clark to break in and get his first victory on tour in what was a really huge field. You know, didn't see guys like Jon Rahm or Scotty Scheffler both using their once a year opt-outs in the elevated field, but still an elevated event. Guys like, he had to fight off Xander Schauffele, right? Guys like Cantlay, Justin Thomas, Rory McIlroy are on the field. So it's a really good field for Wyndham Clark to get his first win in.
Yeah, absolutely. And, I threw the question in our rundown here, is something here with Wyndham Clark. When you look at a win like this, he's a late bloomer, clearly 29 years old, 133 starts, just finally getting a victory. As far as the tour is concerned, that's being a late bloomer. When you look at what he did this weekend, do you see any potential there in terms of maybe something happening here in the near future with him?
I would love to say yes. And I think, for all the reasons we just outlined, right, it's hard to bet against Wyndham Clark, right? For how well he's played lately. He's been in the top 10 a lot lately. He's got 5 top 10 finishes this year. He's been around as of late. We saw him battling out in that Zurich Classic where him and his partner had a couple chances down towards the end. But now he gets it done in this Wells Fargo Championship. But it's just, at the end of the day, talking about, do we have something here? You look at the PGA Championship coming up in Oak Hill. Does he have a chance there? I think, sure, you can say he certainly has a chance. It's just so hard to win in a short amount of time on the PGA Tour. We don't really see a lot of guys do it. It's a short list of guys this season that have done it. Scheffler's been in more recent memory too as well. Jon Rahm has been that guy this year with 4 PGA Tour victories, and the list kind of ends there the last couple of years. You take a look at some other guys. I know Finau had a couple late wins last year too as well. So it's just really, really freaking hard to win a couple times, especially in a row or in 3 weeks, right, on the PGA Tour. So I think it's going to be hard for Wyndham Clark to defend, and looking into this PGA Championship. But for for going forward here the next few years, it's hard to say that Wyndham Clark won't be around for, these big PGA Tour events and maybe even some team events like the Ryder Cup or the President's Cup.
Yeah, it's interesting because digging through, he turns pro in 2017. He's played in 134 events since turning pro. His entire career, 14 top 10 finishes, makes 84 of 133 cuts, which isn't really like wow worthy. Like nothing there is saying like, oh wow, this guy is, doing something. But then this year and last year, he's got 5 top 10 finishes. Like you said, he's made 16 of his 18 cuts this year. Hasn't missed a cut since October 9th at Shriners. His game has clearly turned a corner,
right?
Some way, shape, or form. We've seen his name on the leaderboard a lot this spring, and obviously over the winter. And I don't know that I want to go as far as to say that he should be somebody that people are watching at the PGA.
Yeah, that's fine.
But to say that he is, he's clearly elevated himself into what I would consider, I guess, tier 2 of the current PGA Tour class. I think that's a fair assessment. I think that's kind of where he belongs at this point, given what we've seen him do so far this year. And I'm talking about this season, go back to last fall, look at the numbers, look at the stats coming through to present day where he gets that huge win. I mean, that is, 16 of 18 cuts is very different than that career number of 84 of 133 cuts.
Right.
Like something has clearly changed there.
It's just so impressive what he did today. He comes in with a 2-shot lead coming into today over Xander Schauffele. Him and Xander kind of spaced themselves from the field. I think the next nearest guy starting the day there's a couple guys at 11 under. Yep. So it was pretty much a 2-horse race all day, right? So, everyone, waking up this morning and taking a look at the leaderboard and whether they be taking a look at odds or just kind of thinking about the tournament, you say, oh, well, Wyndham Clark's going to get up on the first tee with a 2-shot lead and for lack of better words, crumble, right? It's so easy to do under that stress. So Wyndham comes out, he bogeys 1. Xander makes a couple birdies and by the 8th hole, Xander has the lead. And, everyone's saying, oh, look, I told you so, right? This could happen. This is exactly how we thought it was going to happen. Nope. Wyndham turns around, shuts the door. Xander plays kind of poorly on the back 9. Wyndham uses that to propel himself to the lead. So I just think that's really, really impressive by Wyndham Clark to go get that victory today. He played so well yesterday on Saturday, but put a really good, complete round today to get that victory.
Yeah. And I think, for listening to his post third round interview yesterday, he's talking about the work that he's put in just so his mental game can be where it needs to be, right, to do what needs to be done. And I mean, today is proof positive of, that work being meaningful stuff for these guys, because it would have been very easy to fall into those bad habits, negative thoughts, all those things. When you lose the lead on the front 9 to a guy like Xander Schauffele,
you got a gold medalist, future, literally past gold medalist, looking right back at you. Like you said, it's just so easy to fall into those old habits and lose that tournament. But props to Wyndham Clark for winning today.
Yeah, absolutely. He put his foot down on the gas pedal and drove. But let's talk a little bit about Xander, shall we? This weekend has to be a positive for him, right? Like I think 15 or 16 under par, in any event, especially an elevated event, you take that and you probably think to yourself, right, I'm going to win that thing. Didn't work out like that for him, but that's where he was. Is it a positive? It's got to be a positive, right?
Yeah, I think so. And I like what you said about, kind of running into a buzzsaw, right? Wyndham Clark almost broke the scoring record that Rory set at 21 under. He finishes at 19 under par. And, like you said, Xander comes 15, 16 under in any elevated event, and that's a great score. It's positive, I think, for Xander. He's got 8 top 10s this season. That ties him with Rahm and Scheffler for the most on tour. The only difference is Rahm and Scheffler have wins this season. Xander does not. So I would like to see him convert some of these top 10, top 5 appearances to victories. And I'm certain that if you ask Xander, he also would too. But yeah, it's still a positive, Josh. I agree.
Yeah, Xander and Patrick Cantlay are kind of in the same boat. They're racking up a lot of top 5, top 10s, but they're not necessarily converting them to wins. What did we think of having Max Homa in the booth yesterday. We continue to see the PGA Tour kind of, and then the networks that they're working with, CBS and NBC, kind of dabble and tinker with different things. We get kind of this, like, it's not a play along, but it's a guy that just finished, a big name coming into the booth. We had John Rahm a couple weeks ago, kind of doing commentary for a few holes. What are your thoughts on that? Obviously, we saw Max Homa, the latest iteration of that.
It's hard not to love it, right? And I think I almost love these more than the play-alongs, right? The play-alongs were really cool when they first came out. I thought that was really fun to get in the mind of the PGA Tour players, while they're on the golf course. But, Justin Thomas did one at Augusta, and he played really poorly on that hole. So I think players are going to kind of be skeptical of these play-alongs. And I think these kind of going into the booth after rounds like this, Max Homa did it yesterday after the third round, Rahm did it after the fourth round, can be really awesome. But you just have to find the right guy, right? Max Homa and John Rahm are really, really good. And they're both golf nerds, to put it quite frank, love talking about golf and have great personalities too. So always great to get PGA Tour players, in the booth and talking and kind of mixing things up. So I always have really loved what, the production side of things has done this year to really improve the TV viewing area for consumers. Yeah. So I love it. Love to hear Max. I've always really liked him on, the old podcast that he used to be on with Shane Bacon. And then on Twitter too, he's fantastic. So always love Max, doing these kind of things.
Yeah, I think it's awesome as long as they don't try to force guys into it who maybe aren't comfortable or aren't the right fit for it. I think the PGA Tour has plenty of personalities that are good for it, that would work perfectly with it. You tap into those, and I think it's a no-lose situation.
Who would you like to see next?
Oh, you know what? I was actually thinking about that today while I was watching, kind of like a grab bag. It's funny because your mind actually naturally goes to the ones that you think would kind of be like, a little maybe not that exciting. So I think like a Patrick Cantlay or frankly, even a Scotty Scheffler. John Rahm was really, really interesting. Yeah, I think like a Jordan Spieth would be really fascinating. We listened to him. We listened to
he played the match with Thomas a couple years ago that he was good. And when they put him the AirPods in him during the match.
Yeah. I think those are kinds of the moves. It'd also be interesting to see some of these younger guys who aren't quite household names. Right. Get Sam Burns, get some of these younger guys who people don't necessarily like just know off the top of their head. Cam Young, let them start to develop their persona a little bit in that environment. I think that would be cool.
Yeah, I would love to hear Justin Thomas in there. He's a great ball buster too. We saw him in the match too, like I was just saying. And also, he's played with, Tiger and Charlie was busting his balls a little bit too. So I think Justin Thomas would be good in the booth. But like you said, I really like that idea of getting some kind of younger generation of PGA Tour players, get them in the booth and let's hear them talk and help build their brand too on the PGA Tour.
Yeah, and speaking of things that are an established brand, unfortunately, poor play out of Rory McIlroy is becoming a brand in the worst way possible. Rating Rory's performance this past weekend, obviously a disappointment. What stood out to you, Nate, as far as watching him play this week?
Yeah, still am really questionable about Rory. He finishes at even par, finished with a flurry there towards the end. Think about Todd T 50th, made the cut on the number, came in saying that his head wasn't really in the right spot. So that's why he took off some weeks. So at the end of the day, I'm not really sure where Rory needs to go from here. And I'm certainly no expert on the mind of the human. So that's for sure. But my main question too, do you think this takes some pressure though off Rory? If he plays well here, does that give him more pressure for the PGA to kill? Or does it kind of being under the radar this week kind of put him in a good spot for the PGA Championship here in a couple weeks?
Well, I've always said like one of the things that most surprises me or most stands out about his game is he can come out of nowhere. He can seem to be completely lost, and then all of a sudden he just shows up one week and it's all there, and he's just firing on all cylinders, and he can't be beat. Right. But I understand the mental component, but I think it's more golf than anything else. Like he is in a very bad place with his game right now.
Yeah.
leads the field in driving distance this weekend, but was 67th in driving accuracy and only managed to hit 20 out of 56 of his fairways this weekend. Makes the cut. His putting is also a real giant like question mark right now. He's like ranked 30th last year in putting average. Now he's at 173. Right. Like what, you can't do both of those things poorly. Like you can have one of those things be completely off the rails, whether it's your driving accuracy or your putting, but you can't have both of those things being completely off the rails. And I actually think the putting is probably more problematic than the driver, even though the driving accuracy is a thing. To me, when I saw that, kind of did a double take and I looked at that stat like 2 or 3 times over just to make sure that I wasn't like losing my mind. But going from being ranked 30th in putting average last season to being ranked 173rd currently in this season, that is a dramatic fall off, and not the kind of fall off you expect to see out of a guy with his talent and frankly his experience. I mean, experience alone you would think would allow you to at least, be passable in the middle of the road. He's not even passable in the middle of the road. He's 173rd. It's just, you can't do that.
All right, I'll leave you with one thing, though, for Rory McIlroy at Oak Hill for the PGA Championship. Rory McIlroy is a member at Oak Hill. That's the last thing. That's not a stat. That's just, he's a member there, and he could play. He could very well play well, and he'll be, up towards the top of the favorites, even though he's not playing his best game. He always will be.
Fair. That's fair. Okay, so as we head toward the second major of the year, which will be held at Oak Hill, I'm going to throw some names at you, and these are all guys who didn't make the cut this week. And my question is, who are we most worried about heading into that major? So we've got Jordan Spieth, who finished +7, shot like a 76 or 77 on the second day here. Colin Morikawa finished +4, Sam Burns, Kurt Kitayama, and Jason Day. All of them missed the cut. Question is, which one, or maybe a couple, are you most concerned about heading into the PGA?
Jason Day kind of concerns me a little bit. He played really well this season on the PGA Tour. Yeah. After 3 rounds at Augusta, he was in the top 10, floating around that top 10 number. He then goes out on Sunday at Augusta, shoots 80. He hasn't played in the tournament since. He didn't play in the RBC Heritage. He now teased up this week, misses the cut. We know that Jason Day has health issues, right? And he's one of the best golfers on the planet, in my mind, really, throughout his career when he's healthy. So is he having some of these health problems these last few weeks? I know it's hard to speculate about that. He's not played that much poor golf, only 3 rounds at the end of the day. But it does cause some red flags in my mind to, just Jason Day was lighting up the PGA Tour early in this season. Didn't get a win, but he was right around in a lot of big tournaments. So that's definitely something that kind of lights up in my head and flags in my head too, that hopefully Jason Day is okay, because it's a better PGA Tour when he's playing well, because he's a household name for sure.
Agreed. And I think back to the match play when he made a run there and he definitely looked a lot better than he had. I would say my answer to that question is Colin Morikawa. And for no other reason than it has just been a very long time since he's had it. And I'm saying it as this kind of abstract thing where we think of him as a guy who would go out and win any week. I don't know if the it is there. And for a guy who is basically, I think he still is, but he definitely has been for the last like 3 or 4 seasons, known as basically one of the best ball strikers in the PGA Tour. I think for a guy with that note attached to his name, where his game is right now is very, very concerning. And I don't know where specifically it is that needs to be fixed, but it's almost as if the couple times that we've seen him play well in early parts of the tournament, he just disappears.
Yeah, he's blown some leads over the last year or two, which it just points to the psyche for me. Multiple-time major champion and Colin Morikawa. Golf doesn't really just go away, right? It's always kind of there. It's like riding a bike at the end of the day for these guys. So I don't expect Morikawa to go bad. But yeah, like you said, Josh, he does seem to be in a bad place right now in terms of golf. If I had to guess, that's in between the ears, right? One of the hardest parts of golf. So hopefully we can see Colin Morikawa, come back and play well too, because like you said, he is so much fun to watch hit irons. One of the best ball strikers in the world.
Yeah, golf is better when he is better. One last note here before we get out. Watch for details on TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, and outofboundsgolfpod.com for details on how to win a Callaway Hyperlight Zero Standbag. We are really, really excited. We've been talking about this giveaway amongst ourselves now for months, it seems like, and we're finally going to be making it happen. We're going to have all the details on the website and on social. Beginning Tuesday is when you'll be able to actually enter to win said bag. And we will get it out to you. Nate, I know we've been talking about this one forever, so you must be pretty excited too. Finally
I love it. It's
going.
A great golf bag and something we've been talking about, like you said, but as soon as this podcast kind of started, we kind of teased it around. So I'm happy that we're finally getting it. We couldn't do it without all your great followers out there. And we're really looking forward to that. And the PGA Championship coming up, a lot of good stuff going to be coming from us here at Out of Bounds Golf Pod on the website as well as social. So I'm just really looking forward to it.
Absolutely. And hey, that is going to do it for Out of Bounds. We'll be back on Wednesday with our picks and odds show for the AT&T Byron Nelson at TPC Craig Ranch. Be sure to follow us on social. And remember, whether it's down the middle or out of bounds, keep on swinging.
You've been listening to Out of Bounds. If it's coverage, debate, or discussion of pro and local golf, we'll be talking about it. Be sure to visit the website at fingerlakes1.com. Find us on TikTok, Instagram, and Twitter at OutofBoundsFL1. See you next time on Out of Bounds.